Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.
I'm having one fun with Monty and the Pharaoh, and I'm going to put him in a crossface chicken, and he's going to go down right now. Yeah.
Here's the thing. You told me that story, and I found out where you lived. I went in your garbage, and look what I found.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, where we have our special guest, our honor, Mr. Tito Santana in studio.
Arriba! There we go.
Oh, I love that. And for the fans, we were supposed to have Greg along with Tito in studio.
Greg the Hammer Valentine?
Greg the Hammer Valentine, but unfortunately, Mr. Valentine's spouse came down ill the day of the event.
Yep.
Tito once told me a story, right? Can you tell that story about the original Intercontinental belt that you trashed in your basement?
You did what?
It's to me, this was the most celebrated belt, the IC belt, the original from the beginning. And I defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine in a cage match, and then Valentine beat up the belt, bent it, kind of tore it apart. It was barely hanging together with the leather, the metal. I won the belt, so I kept it. And they ordered another belt, and I have a gym in my basement, and I threw the belt, on the gym floor, and it was in the same spot for about 10 years. And I finally, I would say, that's junk. I finally threw it away in the garbage. If I could kick myself in the butt, I would, but I can't.
Well, here's the thing. You told me that story, and I found out where you lived. I went in your garbage, and look what I found.
Yeah. What a yoke.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking? This is the belt.
How much do you think, just let's play hypotheticals, if you would have kept that belt in today's market, what you could have sold that belt for?
I would say a minimum of $50,000.
Minimum, without a doubt.
God.
And your cat Muffy used to piddle on it in the basement? I mean, what are we talking here?
Well, no, because we didn't have any pets. So it was just me and my gym, and I just got tired of looking at it, and
Stupid old belt.
Oh my God! But no, who was collecting wrestling stuff back then?
Right.
Nobody was collecting.
It took the route of a classic comic book and went right in the garbage. That's unbelievable.
Thank God he didn't have the first Superman. What is this crap? Throw this out.
He's close, though. He's got the Intercontinental title.
In all seriousness, I got to be honest with you. This was the coolest belt ever, man.
It was the coolest belt.
That was so cool, that belt.
Yeah.
Like, who made the decision, like, oh, we need a new belt. This thing's no good anymore.
Well, the decision was made by Greg Valentine that he.
Oh, he legitimately just decided he wanted to destroy it one day?
No, he destroyed it on his own. Nobody told him to destroy it. He
just destroyed it.
Valentine's not all there, even now.
Wow.
So he just.
He did a shoot on the belt?
He did a shoot. He was upset because he lost the belt. I don't think he wanted to lose the belt, and he lost it. And he, that's what he wanted to hand over to me, and a piece of garbage, and they made a beautiful belt, but it never compared to this belt.
So were you like, hey, Greg, like in the locker room, like, yo, man, what are you doing? You just destroyed this. This is the best belt ever.
Well, and Greg says he kicks himself in the ass because he didn't keep the belt.
Yeah. You know what? The old champion could have kept, like, if they wanted to replace it, they gave it to Greg, and that dude would have been cruising around with the green belt making lots of money.
Yeah, he would.
Wow.
Yeah.
So deep down, what'd you think of the new design? It was like, this thing's a piece of crap, or were you like,
Well, no.
Maybe eventually I'll get the belt in my basement fixed, or.
At the moment, to be honest with you, that was a heavy belt. You could
Okay.
feel the weight on it, and it felt like a real belt.
Okay.
And the new belt had a different weight to it. You know, it just it didn't seem like it was real compared to that one.
Fans are saying you look like you could wrestle today.
Well, I think I'm going to wrestle Saturday.
Here we
So
go.
Are you kidding?
I haven't wrestled in about 2.5 years, but I'm going to strap the boots on one more time and
Really?
see what happens. I don't know. I
See
stay-
what
I stay-
happens. Wait a
I
minute.
stay in pretty good shape. I work out. I do my cardio and I lift pretty regular. But I haven't been in the ring, so I don't know how the body's going to hold up. But the
I'm
fans want to see me, and I'm gonna give it a shot.
I think you're going to do pretty well, actually.
Thank you.
So, first question. Greg was supposed to be here. This was one of our questions, so you're just going to have to answer it. Who was the better Intercontinental champion?
Ooh, Tito or Greg?
Yeah.
Wow.
Without a doubt, Tito Santana.
There we go.
Wow.
He didn't even have to
And Tito
think.
puts himself over.
He should. He should. He was more athletic than Greg.
Wow.
He was. He was more exciting. He
The
was
man knows how to wrestle.
right.
Still.
Great matchup
And-
though,
and-
right? As
and-
far
and-
as
and what do you call it? Wrestling, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Greg was a fighter. Greg was like a pit bull. He was I'm not taking anything away from the guy. He was a fighter. He would keep coming at you, and if you didn't fight back, he'd eat you up.
is he like the perfect opponent for you in some ways because he's the opposite of you, your style?
I think he was, but I would get home at nights, and I would tell my wife, I've had easier street fights than matches with
Right.
Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Right.
I mean, we were bruised up, and he'll tell you himself. I mean, we used to beat the crap out of each other in the ring, and that's why the fans really bought into our feud that we had. We had the longest feud in the history of the WWF at the time, but it's because the fans, I had surgery on my knee. It was taped. It was shown to the fans, and then the matches that followed, the fans bought into the whole thing, and we used to give them a show and beat the crap out of each other, and they wouldn't get enough. They wanted to see, what was next.
Would you consider that one of the top 10 rivalries in the history of wrestling? Forget about the WWE history of wrestling.
I would say it's one of the top 10. I was a wrestling fan when I became a wrestler. Before I wasn't a wrestling fan, and I saw a lot of great matches, a lot of great feuds. Wahoo McDaniel had some great feuds. Chief Jake Strongbow had some great feuds. There was a lot of great feuds in professional wrestling, but I would put our feud on top of many others. The person who really messed up my knee was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff
Ooh.
in Erie, Pennsylvania. And the next day, we were going to have a taping in Brentford, Ontario, and my knee popped, and Andre the Giant helped me get to my room because I couldn't walk on both legs. And I walked into the meeting room in Brentford, Ontario the next day with crutches, and I told Vince, I can't go. And I said, but if you want to do some kind of an angle, I can tape my knee up pretty good. And I said, I'd like to get something out of this injury. And that's when they knew that I was going to need a surgery. And they didn't trust Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff because he would lose it and he would tell everybody off. And, he was a different level.
But let me ask you on a personal basis, right? You're injured. You're like, hey, we'll do this gimmick where I lose. And like you said, they didn't want to go with Orndorff. But in your mind, were you thinking, man, Orndorff is really hot right now in the territory. I want to work with him. I can make a lot of cash feuding with Orndorff.
Oh yeah, I would have loved to have done some kind of a feud with Paul Orndorff, because we had matches without us having a feud, and he got so much heat in the match that that was the only time, the only opponent I ever had where fans jumped into the ring.
Wow.
And jumped on Paul's back to help me out as he was getting heat on me and as I was selling. So it was a natural, thing. We resembled it. We both looked like athletes. We used to go in there and just, it was my match with Mr. Wonderful was a different type of match than I had with Greg the Hammer Valentine. With Mr. Wonderful, it was I would say 50 wrestling and then a fight in the ring. And with Valentine, I would say 80% fight and 20% wrestling. It was a different style. And I think at the time, the fans enjoyed the wrestling the most, but Valentine and I really clicked together, and we just and Greg will tell you, we didn't go in. A lot of people would talk in the ring. Me and Greg would just go in there, and we just went at it. We didn't have to talk. We just entertained. Back then, they used to tell you learn. Mr. Fuji would tell me, you learn timing and you listen to the people. The people will tell you what to do. And when I first started, I said, "What the hell is he talking about?" And when you become a pro and you become primed, you do get the ear, and the people will kind of guide you through the match if you're smart enough to hear them. I was in a battle royal, and Harley Race was there, and he grabbed me and he turned me around. He says, "Come here, kid." Says, you're gonna learn how to throw a punch today. So he turned me around and put himself in the corner, and he says, "Okay, hit me in the head." So I was scared to death to hit Harley Race.
Sure.
Because he was a killer.
Yeah.
And can you swear a little bit here?
Yeah,
You sure can.
So I threw the punch at him, and he says, "Lay it in, you pussy." and the art to me of throwing a good punch without it's the fact that you lose the fear of hurting somebody, and you feel the confidence. Okay, I'm going to throw the punch, and I don't have to worry if I hit him too hard. But it was a process of learning how to throw a punch. You start in the stomach, and then you start here in the neck, and then you work to the forehead, and then when you get to throw a punch to the nose and to the mouth, and there's not too many wrestlers who can do that without really hurting somebody. And Harley was one, and Ric Flair was one. I was one, and I had a lot of people that have told me that I threw the best punch, but there was I would say a dozen guys that were as good or better than me. I'm not going to say that I was the best, but I was very comfortable throwing a punch anywhere in the body.
Greg Valentine did not have soft hands. Is that safe to say?
Greg Valentine would lay him in. I mean,
I bet.
He'd hurt you.
I bet.
He'd potato you. But one thing about Greg, we used to say, you get a receipt. He'd hit you hard, and you could hit him as hard as you want. He never complained either.
How was the pay, if I can ask, for you and Valentine working together? Were you headlining B shows? I mean, how did they fit you in on the card, and how well were you guys compensated during that legendary feud, if I can ask?
Well, me and Valentine were the first feud that were selling out Madison Square Garden,
there you go,
Baltimore,
right there.
Washington, without Hulk Hogan.
That's an A show. He's selling out the Garden. That ain't no B show, right?
We were setting records ourselves. Detroit, we brought Detroit from $20,000 to $250,000.
Wow.
You
Whoa.
used to pay like
Right.
$5 to get in, So
Man.
you'd have $20,000 in Detroit. We built up Florida. I mean, I think we had like 6 return matches. Strep. Leather strap matches, tape fist matches, lumberjack matches. We had 1 hour matches. We wrestled for an hour. We went in Madison Square Garden. We had a no time limit because we went over the curfew, so they had to close down. The garden couldn't stay open after 11 o'clock, so they had to stop the match because we hit the curfew. So we went in the next match was they had to pay extra, no curfew match. I mean, we had and we were main events. We were making good money, not anywhere near what the guys are making now,
Oh, right.
but at the time it was pretty good money.
So how come they chose, being that that feud was so hot, WrestleMania comes along, and they decide to put Junkyard Dog against Valentine and kind of have you do the run-in? I know you opened up and you were the guy that started the show.
Right.
How come they didn't decide to put that Intercontinental match together instead?
Well, I was pretty upset about that, but the card was so loaded, and at the time there was only 2 or 3 pay-per-views at the time, so our match was so hot they wanted to carry the match every week on the towns across the country. So if we would have had, because we'd have the same match in Miami, the same match in Detroit, the same match in LA, the same match, everywhere for about 2 months, and then we come back with the returns. So they would have wasted a whole loop of matches if they would have put one of the matches in the pay-per-views. And I think maybe, I don't know, Vince thinking and Pat Patterson and whoever else was there making the decisions. I don't really know the reason, to be honest with you. I wasn't in with the office that much.
In hindsight, then, the way you explain it, it probably makes more sense because you probably made more money then. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a really big payday in WrestleMania 1, but you were still touring with Valentine for another 6 months after that, maybe.
Right.
I'm not sure of the months, but
No, we were probably our feud went for about a year and a half.
yeah.
So yeah, the payoffs. The only person making big payoffs back then was Hulk. The rest of us weren't. Hulk wrestled. I think it was Bundy in WrestleMania or no, who?
Yeah, WrestleMania 2 was Bundy.
WrestleMania 2 is the main event, and
Right.
and didn't make anywhere near the same amount of money that the Hulk was making. Hulk, you got to give Hulk credit. Hulk was a good businessman, and he figured out how to deal with Vince, and he recognized his value in the company, and he did it. He did it his way.
Hogan a cool guy in your book? You get along with Hogan back in the day?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, Hogan was to me. We started in the same era. He was
I
just
remember.
a little bit behind me.
You fought him at the Garden when he was with Blassie.
Right.
For God's sakes, I
Yeah.
remember these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we used to talk, and we used to help each other, and but I don't know if I told you the story. Sylvester Stallone sent, I think, 3 or 4 of the wrestlers, Gorilla Monsoon, I think Dino Bravo, Hulk, and maybe even Mr. Wonderful, a letter for the movie that Hulk was in, and Hulk was the only one that answered it. Nobody else answered it.
Oh, wow. So Stallone had invited others to possibly
Yeah,
try out, and they
right.
blew him off?
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Rocky, the franchise is already 2 films in it. It's a blockbuster.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
That's strange.
Hulk was the only.
Yeah, well, but it ended up getting Hulk fired from the WWF, right? Because Vince Sr. didn't
Right.
want him going
Senior-
into that movie, right?
Senior was against that.
And you guys didn't know, if you would
We
accept
flew
it
to-
or would did.
We flew to Japan together, Hulk and I, and he was telling me, he says, Vince wants me to dye my hair red. And this was, I don't know if Vince knew, I'm talking about Vince Sr.
Senior, yeah.
I don't know if Hulk had discussed this with Vince or what, but he says, I don't think I'm going to do it.
That would have been terrible.
Yeah. He says, I don't think I'm going to do it. And then, he gives his notice, goes and does the movie, and then he comes to
Vern.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they try to push him as a heel, and they gave him Johnny Valiant as his manager,
Man.
and they were giving him going up against two baby faces when they brought him in on TV, and they tried hard to turn him into a heel, but the fans started. He looked so good. In
The fans
tape,
were having none of it.
and the fans just kept cheering him and cheering him. They sent Johnny home, and they didn't. They turned him babyface because and all of a sudden.
Poor Johnny Valiant. Then he had to become a comedian. Why does someone like you, all of a sudden, when you leave wrestling, you just don't like it anymore and you just stop watching? Why does that happen?
It's not that I don't like it anymore. Is that I'm a school teacher. I really enjoy what I'm doing now. I was a professional football player. Never made it big. But I wore the Kansas City uniform for a little while.
Nice.
And you still watch football, I'm assuming, right?
I love football.
Still love
I love
football.
baseball. I love all the. I grew up loving sports. I didn't grow up with wrestling because in South Texas it would come on at 11, so I wasn't a wrestling fan. So
But you're a wrestler, one of the greatest wrestlers ever. When did this start to happen that you stopped watching? Let's get to the bottom of this. Seriously.
well, I think the fact that it was such a grinding job of being on the road so many days a year, and
Okay.
affecting your family. You miss birthdays, you miss the anniversaries, you miss all holidays because we were entertaining people, and I don't know that I had, because I'm not bitter towards Vince or
Right. Did you just suffer burnout after all the years of being a wrestler? So it was like, I don't even want to watch it. Was it something like that?
But here's my question. I was thinking about this, right? You're in that documentary, 350 days, I think, right?
Yeah.
Look, I know you're married, you got children, I get the whole thing. But like when I think about it, I go, I don't know, what's so bad? I'm on the road, I'm hanging out with my friends, I'm drinking. Like I was thinking to myself, and say to me, Monty, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. All I'm saying
Please.
is you're the great Tito Santana.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure every town you went into, you probably had to pay for your hotel room, but I bet if you went into restaurants, people were buying you your dinners, buying you your drinks. Yeah, I mean, just to get near you. I mean, I don't know. What's so bad about
Was that going on? That's
cruising
cool.
around, you
Like
know?
that sounds like a rock star, but that's what wrestlers sometimes are.
That was happening, and that's what happened to a lot of my friends. That got involved in drugs, started coming around, and
Right.
me coming from migrant workers and not having a lot of money, I just couldn't see spending money on drugs and partying and and I wasn't taking uppers and downers and this and that to keep you up in the ring. So I needed to get as much rest as I can. So I wasn't staying up partying, every night like it could have been. It could have been a party 7 days a week.
Tito Santana versus Rick Martell, Saturday night's main event, 1989, was one of the best matches, Saturday night's main event lumberjack match. Do you remember that match?
Nope. We got over, me and Rick. We weren't Strikeforce, but we got over, and they wanted to see us beat Greg Gagne and jumping Jim Brunzell.
Well, nobody likes tennis legs, but let's not get into that.
Did you laugh when you wrestled Gagne? Like, what am I doing?
No,
We always have fun with this, but
but one thing about Greg, he was a genius in the ring.
Was he?
The
That I believe.
The guy had a great.
that I believe.
The guy knew how to work, and he was good.
He was pretty tall. Do you think he should have hit the gas a little bit, maybe? No, I'm serious. I mean,
Believe it or not, I think he did, but he just
he hit the gas. What did he get? Unleaded?
Tito-
I mean,
Tito-
what are we
Tito's
talking
laugh-
about here?
Tito's laughing. He's like, there's not enough gas to fix those legs. What would Tito Santana tell people about Vince McMahon, the person?
Vince McMahon. To me, he always treated me good. I would say Vince is a great businessman. He has the ability to make you feel like like you're the most important person in the world as long as he puts you in the pedestal to draw him some money, because he's the one who decides who's going to be a star. So, you know, as long as you're making him money, he is going to make you feel like you're the most, like he used to. I saw him, you know, greet The Rock when I went back in 2004. I would see the way he would treat Hulk, and he would treat me the same. Whenever he would talk to me, he would make you feel like. So I knew, but when my reign was over and I knew it was over in New York, it was hard to get a word in with him. But it's not because he was ignoring me. It's because he moved on to the next group of guys that he was going to be drawing money with. You know, not that he was ignoring me or anybody else. You know, he was a businessman. You know, he was making his first stringers, you know, feel good.
So the Pharaoh's final question, Tito, I have no idea what he's going to say, but good luck. It could be ridiculous. I have no idea.
It usually is ridiculous. Give me the 4 greatest, in your opinion, Spanish superstars that have graced the ring over the years.
Well, when I first got started, Jose Lothario was
Jose Lothario.
one of the wrestlers
Okay.
in Texas to me who was over with the Mexicans big time.
Okay.
I saw Chavo Guerrero,
Chavo
the
Guerrero.
father, when I was just starting to train in 1977, and I was so impressed. I thought he had so much charisma, and I saw him very professional, dressed in the suit, going into the arena. Mil Máscaras,
There we go.
to me was a,
I was waiting for Mascaras.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Can
in my era,
Still got one to go, though.
I know, but can I just ask you about Mascaras? Did you know him well at all?
I didn't know him. I didn't know him well, and I remember as a kid going into a Mexican theater in Mission, and he was in some of the movies that I saw him in. And then when I first started wrestling in 1977, he was wrestling in San Antonio, and I was driving, and you know, I still was. I was just a referee. You know, I wasn't wrestling yet, and I refereed one of his matches, and he got to ride in my car. I drove him from San Antonio to Houston, and in the locker room, I saw him take one mask off to take a shower, and he hit another mask on. So I said, "This guy doesn't. This guy doesn't even show the face in the
What is he,
locker room."
shampooed a mask? I mean, his hair must have been crusty as all can
Wait,
be.
hold on. You got to give me this picture. So he's taking. Was he also eating in his mask too, like having
Would
a
he eat
sandwich?
like a sandwich, a big sloppy hero
no,
with
no.
the mask on?
Let me-
Are you putting yourself as the 4th on the Mount Rushmore for Latino?
Yes,
There we go.